We go. What you want? Which one you want?
What are you doing?
Now, you had said you was wanting to drink with absolutely no chaser. So I know when you trying to drink, I know what we doing next. So what you want?
No.
Let's get it. What you want, baby?
That's not what I said. What I said was we're partnering with Black with No Chaser, and we'll be joining the Black with No Chaser radio show. Yeah. Yep. You heard right, my listeners. Chasen and I are excited to announce that you'll be able to hear season 1 of My Last Nerve on Black with No Chaser Radio. And season 2 kicks off February the 5th and will be airing on Black with No Chaser Radio as well as all other podcast platforms. So that's what we're doing.
Is we drinking or what? Cause I'm ready now. I ain't ready. Where you going? Where you going?
Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Cirilo in the building, and I got Black History 365, the brother Dr. Milton and Khao Cates, man, who put together this amazing 1,200-page textbook and 42-track album to go along with it to make sure that our young people are not only getting the text they need, but they meet them where they're at with the audio version as well, man. It's super dope, and we got them in the building with the Black Lunch Break crew today. Y'all stay locked in. Who wants to go first, y'all?
I give it to he's kind of shy about this, but it's Dr. Khao Kevin Cates.
Look, I didn't got the background now, brothers. On both of y'all. So I mean, look, I know that both of y'all well educated, brothers. So I mean, I think that either one of y'all can answer this question, but I'll put it right here. And since Dr. Milton, you are right there, to the right of me on the screen. Right? I'll have you go first.
All right, my brother.
What comes to mind when you hear Black with No Chaser?
I love it, man, because I think that it's a medium that we can speak truth and that we can have straight talk. And sometimes it's going to take straight talk to deal with our situation because we're in a nefarious crisis right now. And I think that we should have a platform that we can speak truth to the highest degree.
Absolutely. I show to you, Dr. Cates.
Oh man, yo, I mean, it's just being frank. It's just real talk. When I see Black with No Chaser, we finna get to it. It's the real deal. No sugarcoating, just right to it.
Right to it. So with that being said, getting right to it, right? Y'all got the Black History 365. It would drop last year. So catch us up really quickly on some of the energy before it was even released, right? And tell us more about what's happening right now, then maybe even some of the plans for the future. So Dr. Cates, I'll kick it over to you, brother.
All right. So, of course, last year it was released. And, of course, Walter, amazing as far as what he did with writing the book and coming together with Joel and putting the pictures and that, the animation together. The book is, remarkable. And on my end, of course, on the music side and being, Grammy nominated, doing my thing on the music side, as they came to me earlier in developmental stages of the book, I knew okay, I got to put music to this. I have to meet the youth where they are and create some banging joints for every chapter in the book to where, you're jamming to music, not even realizing that you're learning some at the same time. But at this, and really just create the first ever soundtrack to our culture. So that will be the newest phase of it. You know what I mean? So as the book was getting completed, I was simultaneously grabbing the chapters and actually creating the music, and taking it to that level.
Dr. Milton, though, I know that you, Khao just really talked about he was more the I guess some of the creative energy around it, developing the album for it. Obviously, first of its kind. I know when I was in school, I wish we'd have had more hip hop and more R&B and more soulful music to tag along with some of the material. Maybe it'd have been a little bit off base because it wasn't nothing about our culture, but it would still been cool to have some records that playing that kind of that we felt like we belonged. And so, talking about your role as Dr. Milton, like tell us a little about your background too, and like how you got to this point. Because I think it's important to understand people's background as well. So, what are some of the happenings in your life outside education that really got you going and heading into this direction to BH365?
Well, I was raised by two wonderful parents who taught nothing but revolution and liberation in my household. And every time we would engage in history, my mother and father would, my dad is a Gullah guy from South Carolina, so he would talk about the richness of that history and the power that was within to say, you will not enslave me under no circumstances. Mm-hmm. So some of the Gullah people, they were left alone because they were seen as too violent, if you will. So I have that in my DNA in certain cases, but not violent so much physically, but intellectually, in that the ability to compete. But it happened to me, an experience happened in fourth grade. So I have this wonderful history in our household about our history goes back to the beginning of time. But then I had a fourth grade experience, a teacher by the name of Miss Laudisi, who said, today I'm going to teach you Black history. And what I discovered was that she started in the midst of the slave antebellum time, of slavery, right in the midst of that. And she had these exaggerated visuals. And then she had one that stayed with me particularly, where this white so-called slave owner was beating an enslaved brother. And it looked like he was so docile and submissive, and contradicted everything in my mother and father said. I went home crying because you're in fifth grade, you're professional. Everybody loves their teacher. They think their teacher's God. And so I said, wait a minute, Mom, this is what happened. I was almost in tears. And my mother said, wait a minute, that's not the truth. Come on, our history goes back to the beginning of time. And so that day, a seed was planted in me. Let me fast forward a little bit. I became a principal. I was in my 20s. I became a superintendent. I was in my 30s. But I always had that revolutionary spirit saying that we have to really examine the practices that we're delivering in school systems. And so I always wanted to challenge the curriculum. And so I said, if I ever get the opportunity, I'm going to do just that. So when I was given this mission intrinsically, I started working on it, and then I called Dr. Freeman because I know that he was the curator of many images. And so I said, hey, man, come on board. He's a white dude, but he said, hey, I'm with you. I said, okay, you got to be John Brown in this stuff here, man. You can't go back. You can't play, both sides. He said, I'm with you 100%. I said, okay. So we went at it. It took us almost 3 years, 2.5+ years of 12 to 16-hour days, man, to unearth material that the world has never seen before. And we have images that go back to 1553. And we said, hey, this would be incomplete if we didn't have the QR codes and all the other technological components that are needed. Man, we got to have the music. And he says, I know just the brother that could do that. So we got on the first plane smoking down to Atlanta, went to Khao's house several years ago. I mean, he treated us and fed us well. Ever since that, my weight problem has been in place. Has been intact because of Khao, all that good food. But at any rate, man, we had a great time. And I knew when I first met Khao that these were like two tribal brothers just coming back from generations ago to connect with each other. And here we are.
No doubt.
That's amazing. Like, I appreciate the synergy that y'all have, man. I try to comb through as much of the 1,200 pages as possible. I'll be real with you. I didn't read every one, but I tried to get the essence of what you all are doing. And being somebody's a history buff myself, in fact, like, they're really, because like I remember, like the first time I had learned about other than what we learned about in school, which was basically black people being very docile, right? Enslaved folks, folks that never had anything, that were never in any position of power. And I was just like, damn, it's almost like you sitting there, you'd be like, so only people that look like these people, and even before you even introduce race into it, right? You just like these. So these people are like this, never had power. These people got all the power, and it was just one of those things that never really, similar to you, never really sat well with me. I never, and it wasn't until, obviously, you got to do a lot of soul searching, and you also got to do a lot of reading on your own. Nobody's going to give you this information, and so like to see a book that's 1,200 pages that starts before antebellum, right? That starts before the transatlantic slave trade ended, right? Because people think that slavery was only like from 19 until 1865, right? But the way in which I read this book one time. I think it was one of the best books I ever read, to be honest. And I don't know if y'all read it, but it was about the half has never been told. Like we're Baptists, and I tell anybody who really wants to know the real tea about the enslavement of black people, this like kidnapping of black bodies from Africa. There's probably not a better book to give you a real idea about what that was, and it really made me appreciate New Orleans, where I'm from, a bit more because I didn't really understand, from 1807 to 1865, how much of literally New Orleans was the epicenter of slavery. And but the cool part about BH365 is that it begins in the ancient times, right, and goes all the way back as far as you can trace it to show the lineage that black people, African people with royalty. And I think that's an important fact, artifact, if you will, that's never really talked about. And so my next question is how do you then, right, knowing that sometimes history can be without contextualizing, it can be a bit tough to grasp for a kindergartner, right? And so it's a lot of dense material in there, in the 1,200 pages. And so will there be like augmentations or different versions of it for like pre-K or kindergarten through third grade, and third grade to fifth, and sixth to eighth, and so on and so forth? Or is it just more of a book that educators can get, and then they're the ones to kind of figure out what's the best way, also predicated on some of the curriculum ideas you all have embedded in the book for educators? Is it more of that in the latter, or is it more of the former?
Brother Cirilo, what we decided to do was do exactly that. So we wanted to make sure that we had every grade band covered. So our team right now working on grades K2. We have a series that's coming out, and it's all developmentally appropriate. So we have K2, we have 3-5, and then we have 6-8. We decided to do the 9-12 version. Actually, it's our book is being used at Morehouse right now, and Carol had a lot to do with that, with Pastor Patterson. But the book is being used at Morehouse. We're in conversation with Hampton and hopefully Howard soon, and then some of the predominantly white colleges and universities. So we wanted to have a 9 through 16 at least version completed, and then our goal is to scaffold down. We will have all grade bands completed between April and June, and then we'll be covering ourselves comprehensively from kindergarten all the way through 16.
Absolutely.
Cool. Because I know that and by the way, I'm a FAMU grad, so okay, I'm a Morehouse man. But Dr. Milton, now what school did you attend or graduate from, I should say?
Oh man, I went to a predominantly white university. I played football there for 4 years. University of Albany. I did some graduate work at the University of Rochester, small college called Rockport, and I did a PhD EDD at the University of Baltimore.
Perfect, man. Absolutely. And I know that we give, HBCU folks give, PWI folks a hard time, but I know it's all love, man. Cause it's like, I think it's more of just inter-community kind of like thing that, that we do to one another. But I would never try to like say that just because somebody went to a PWI that your education was any less than HBCU education, you know. But I will say though, I will say. I will say though, kiddo, keep it real, man. Like like being that Florida State was across the tracks. You know, I used to always tell my homies that I had over there, I'd be like, look, bro, y'all keep it real with me, man. It's the reason why y'all over on set Fridays, man. Y'all looking for the sauce, y'all looking for the juice, baby. Like that's what's over here, man. Like I know what y'all looking for. I get it. I was like, y'all take all the resources, you do what the white man does, and take, you know, you strip away our resources over here, and you go back to your own institutions. Nah, I'm just joking. I'm just playing, man.
I did pledge though.
You did pledge?
I went hard too, man. Hard in the paint.
Hard in the paint. What's fraternity?
Phi Beta Sigma.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I got a couple of homies, man. One of my business partners, he actually in Atlanta. He has this thing called Rebuilding Black Businesses down there. And also Render ATL. Just so you know, Black with No Chaser, we've been doing a lot of partnerships and really building out the tech space. Black folks in tech, working with coders and engineers, and really, you know, kind of driving that a bit more down Atlanta. I know Miami is trying to like be the next tech hub, but I think Atlanta, we all believe that Atlanta should be that tech hub. And so working with our folks down at Render ATL, and I said Rebuilding Black Business, the brother Justin Samuels down there. And in fact, though, Khao, man, love to meet you in person, by the way. Don't put you on the spot. But I'm coming to Atlanta on March 10th through the 14th. A friend of mine, he's getting engaged, and we gonna hit the golf. We're gonna hit the golf course a little bit. So you got some clubs, more than welcome to come out, man, and you know, and do your thing. But
I'll be around in the city, so let's make it happen.
For sure.
After the golf course, though. I don't want you on me. I ain't got my swing all the way it need to be. So.
Now we just started, man. We just started in the pandemic, man. July of 2020. Couple of my bros out here in DC, they were just like, y'all just wanna start playing, and then we were just like, yeah, and then the rest was history. To be honest, it wasn't really nothing to it, and so not even a year in, so I'm pretty sure you'll be just fine. So let's dive back into it, man. So Khao, let us know really quickly, man, because I know that you work with a lot of artists, you know, from T.I., folks down in Atlanta, man, Grammy nominated, and so like, but on this album here, for folks that maybe not familiar or won't be able to get in touch with the book per se, name like in terms of, you know, other producers or writers or, you know, artists that were associated with this album, because it's 40 songs, right? Is it not?
Yep, it's like 40
songs. Yeah, so you got 42 records, 42 tracks on there. It's a lot of content, a lot of people that pour a lot of love and energy into that. So I want to dig in a bit more about your take into this and the folks you were able to work with.
No doubt. Well, man, you know, I want to start back just to give a backline. Definitely, production-wise, you know, been blessed to do my thing. Been blessed to sell over 30 million records. Blessed to be one of the forefathers of trap music, along with Shorty Red and Zaytoven, and you know, it's a lot of us. But you know, with the T.I., Jeezy, Gucci Man era, just building sound. But I would say, you know, what really got me here, because a lot of people say, okay, how you go from here to actually creating, you know, educational music and stuff. You know, one of my things was in 2008. No, well, a little before that. No, yeah, it was a little before that. My dad passed away right around 2005, 2006. And he would always tell me, don't just be successful, be significant and leave a legacy behind. And I didn't quite get it until after his passing. And, you know, at that point, I was like, okay, well, how do I become significant? And things that was exciting to me wasn't exciting to me anymore. And, you know, I'm praying on it, like, okay, how do I figure this out? And I went to an award show I was being honored at, and the president of Martin Luther King's organization came to this award show and apologized to everyone in the room for not passing the torch. So it was a bunch of hip hop heads in there. So I'm like already blown away, because that was the first time I heard an older person apologize and humble and apologize to us. But then it also made me realize that my generation's so busy chasing money that we were repeating the process. So then I knew what I wanted to do as my road to significance. Bridge the Gap came to me in a dream, and that's my nonprofit. We've been around for over 12 years now. But at that point, I ended up waking up saying, I got it. I got to write a textbook. I got to write a book that teaches character building and life skills through music. And that was Bridge the Gap. So I wrote a book, and it's like 12 chapters, but it teaches patience, self-determination, self-love, watching the company you keep, how to deal with losing loved ones, not making excuses in life. And then I produced music for each chapter. And then I brought Megan Good in, which is my sis. And like Megan Good and myself actually teaches the course via video. So now we fast forward, we're in schools throughout the U.S. We're in the juvenile justice system. We're in schools in South Africa and the Bahamas. I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from President Obama, and all these things that I would have never could have imagined doing if I didn't take that leap, in the height of everything. So that point, I had superintendent saying, well, what do you have to help with the test scores? And then I took another leap and said, okay, well, I need to figure this out. So I ended up producing over 600 songs that teaches math, science, social studies, and English through hip hop, and I created videos for it, and I named it Curriculum. And Curriculum is now being used throughout the U.S. And it's amazing, especially with the pandemic, the people who are ordering it because they're like, our kids at home. I haven't done algebra in forever, but I can listen to the songs and correlate. So Curriculum's been amazing. And then I got into the tech side, and I created Cool AR, which is I layer augmented reality with another technology, and the kids can aim the phones at the book, and the video plays on top of the book, but my characters are on top of the videos dancing, teaching the kids phonics and counting. So been doing my share in that side as well. And so when I got up with Walter and they brought this to me, it was like I already knew what to do. I put in so many years of grinding. It's like, oh, this is easy, So I called on my team, with my label, some of the most talented kid brothers I ever worked with, but Jay Morris, Mark XX, Real Talk, Beat Champ, Xavier, Honey Hirsch, a lot of my family that I just got in my circle was like, yo, let's go. And we divided the book up, knocked the tracks out, and was like, okay, look, you grab these 5, you grab these 5. And, it was really tough, but because when you're learning this history and you're having to read it, it's like I still had to be like, even though I was pissed about it, I had to still be like a news commentator and just state the facts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So trying, making sure we capture it and then producing it to where you're jamming and grooving and don't even realize that, I just learned so much. And, just balancing out, creating a feel to where, this is some really sad stuff, but let me create a track that offsets that to where it still keeps you vibing, but learning at the same time. So, it was dope. At the end of the day, it came out dope.
Yeah, man. I always talk about that, like this whole, I feel like Black folk in particular, especially at the amount of trauma that Black communities had to go through. It's like you're going through trauma in your neighborhoods. You're going through trauma maybe in your homes. You're going through trauma in your education system. You're going through trauma and you're probably being over policed. And so and then you got to then learn the history and you go, damn, like, it's like almost like, well, when do we get a break? One of my homies, he put up a post the other day and was like, talked about how we can't keep using the same tools that got us through survival mode. Like we gotta, like, what I'm saying, because we gotta develop new tools so we can thrive. You know what I mean? I think that I said this earlier on my live, talking about a lot of folk have been become too adjusted to injustice. And I think because of that, it's like in this whole idea about incremental change, and we gotta be complacent. I think the undertone of where I hear is that from what you gentlemen are doing, and everybody associated with BH365 is we not selling anymore, right? We gonna leave behind a legacy, and as long as I got breath in my body, I'm gonna make sure that we teaching our young folk as much as we possibly teach them about our history, because our history is American history, right? It's world history, and so the fact that one of the greatest things somebody ever came up with probably was a pencil, to be able to erase our history and to augment it and distort it in a way in which that fits narratives, their narratives the best. And so I think it's high time. That's why I'm proud to have you gentlemen on here to be able to talk about this. I think one of the most important things talk about, which is knowing ourselves, and part of knowing ourselves, knowing our history. And so again, man, I just want to applaud y'all for that, because it's like, you know, we don't celebrate these wins. And so now, right, we caught up to speed, right? We know, you know, got some of the background on everything. And so I'm really interested now is that how do we, you know, what can we do as a community? What's the play? What's the play and say, you know, we go to Arkansas right now, or Utah, or Texas, right? In Texas, and we know the history around Texas and the whole idea of GTT and all the former enslavers and their families now live there. It's like, how do we get under the Governor Abbotts of the world and say, hey, look, we want to put this in your classroom? I mean, because I don't really know how it works from the statewide Department of Education, the state and superintendent. So Dr. Milton, you could probably speak to this a bit more and educate me and other listeners out there about this process that's going to be happening in the next, you know, year, 2, 3 down the line.
Right. Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because we have 2 versions of the textbook. But we just so happen to have a Texas version, believe it or not. Texas passed legislation last April, and our book had just come out. I think we completed KO. It was like August or September-ish. And Texas passed legislation that every high school in the state has to teach Black history. So they're moving to taking that edict to make it mandatory now. And so we have partnered with a number of districts in the state of Texas. But we knew that wasn't enough, that we had to develop the textbooks for the United States as well. So we have 2 versions. We have a Texas version, and then we have a version that we call 50 Stars. That's for the rest of the United States. In the 50-star version, we give Black history in all 50 states of America. Mm-hmm. So it's an incredible feat, man. But I think that somebody has to do it.
Right.
And why not us? And we decided to go all in. We didn't leave any stones unturned. And we wanted to make sure that we were putting forth accurate research that would hook and engage people into learning about who we are. And what we found, what we're discovering, is that this textbook engages all ages. And KO would tell you, like the music, like the words in the book, it's our love letter to the world. And I think this is something that our ancestors will be very proud of, because the spirit of them still lives in us, which had drove the whole operation.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. And speaking to that, and so like I feel like we touched on it, but maybe so Texas made it law, so we wouldn't have to every state would have to make it law to some degree, or at least implement some kind of policy that would mandate that Black history be part of it. Or is it more of a municipality type of thing, or district, where if a superintendent wanted that to be a part of the curriculum, he or she could then take the text and then put that, or mandate that be a part of the curriculum? Is that kind of how it goes? I'm just really asking for clarity.
Yeah. So it can go like the implementation of it from the superintendent's office, the deputy, assistant superintendent, or it can really come from the building principals too. Yeah. Because they have the flexibility to kind of push this. Some people are using this as a core text, and some people may want to use it as a supplemental book. But the volume of the book is so large and vast that we have districts like Peoria, Illinois, they're using it for 4 years. So they're going to be working out of this book for 4 years. So every 9th to 12th grader would have a copy of this book. And we have other districts that we're partnering with that want to do the same thing, like Denver, Colorado. We're in the process of communicating with New York City right now, and other places in the country, Chicago, and the other large districts that we hope to partner with in the near future.
Right, and to piggyback on that, bro, from just me working and moving some of my other curriculums, the way it really works is like what Walter said. Like, you're able to, the principals can do their own thing. But at the same time, the superintendents can come down. So what I realized what works best and where everyone can get involved is the powers in the people. So the principles are more reachable. But if you have schools and students and parents saying we need this, then that becomes a priority to that principal. And then what I notice is if you start from the top, it doesn't all the way work all the time because the top says, well, we still got to get approval from the middle, so they don't feel like we're deboing them. You know what I mean? So if you just kind of meet in the middle and it's about doing the grassroots and getting everybody involved and saying, hey, this exists. This is real. We want our kids to know this. And then as we're working the top level, it all meets in a space to where everybody's, comfortable.
That's, man, I was gonna, I think from a organizing perspective, that's probably the best route to go is like kind of start somewhere in the middle to bottom range. And then, I don't know if y'all saw the new movie about Fred Hampton that came out, Judas and the Black Messiah, but in the movie, Fred, one of the historic lines in the movie was where there's people, there's power. And I think you just really kind of summed it up in a way is that, if there's people that want this text, and I think there's a lot of folk that want this text, and not just, I think that, I think white folk, to be honest, and a lot of people now are really interested in what really, what is Black history. I think people really want to know. There's an appetite for it because it's almost like, well, I hear y'all talking about this all the time. Well, goddamn it, like where, like give me a text, give me something I can read because I'm willing to read. If you got it for me, because one thing about it is one thing I learned about our counterparts is that they ain't gonna do too much searching all the time. Like you got almost spoon feed that thing to them. But I think that this 1,200 page book does exactly that, right? It literally lays it out. Y'all managed to do, I call it the Black People's Museum out here in DC, right? And if you ever been, y'all pretty much took the Black People's Museum and put it in the book, right? To some degree, right? Which is incredible because but even the Black People's Museum, which is the Smithsonian, everybody, okay, it's a Smithsonian museum out here in DC. It doesn't even start where you all start. They start at enslavement. They start with the kidnapping of Africans and Black people, right? They don't start with kings and queens and dynasties in Africa. So like what you add is a real layer, most important layer that Black people and the portrayal of Black people being over criminalized and savages, and we need to be reformed and transformed and put and taught to have some couth. It's like, hold on now, like that was happening already, y'all. We about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 years ahead of y'all. So look, man. So let's not go there, okay? Right. But want to dig into the text a little bit. It's a lot going on there, right? It's some interactive text side of what y'all got going on. I love the questions and how y'all present questions for the educators and students who are going to be reading this. And so, either you can chime in, but KO, I'll come back to you. Outside of the music portion, obviously just compiling all the history from all 50 states, including Texas, what was some of your favorite components of the additions to it that you wish you would have had when you were a kid? Because I feel like there's some there are opportunities in there. I'm like, damn, I wish I would have had this type of interactive textbook when I was a kid. But what are some of the kind of cool parts about that that really hit on the curriculum, if you will, of the work that you've been doing?
I really all of it, because we had, I came up in Alabama, so we had Alabama history, and it started straight at civil rights and slavery. Like, they just sit us in the room and watch Eyes on the Prize, and we just be depressed. That was our history, right? So I think, just seeing this and definitely being able to say, you know what, I just read this. But, a lot of our kids' attention spans, they may look at the book and become overwhelmed. But with this book, you could read and say, okay, it's got these dope pictures. I can see things. And wait a minute, if I just missed that, I could just do the QRC code. And wow, here's a video that's breaking this down for me even more. So we're capturing the visual, the auditory learners, we're capturing from all angles. So that's really dope. And I think we have a whole nother group of kids that bridge the gap in what I've been grabbing, like some of our kids that's just lost, you know what I mean? And I'm helping them see, look, if you know your history, you really can know where you're supposed to go. you know, but you lost right now. So they may not want to look at a book, period. But if I play a 3-minute song that crowns in the chapter of that book,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, and now they're now more wanting to read it because now they get it compared to at first being intimidated. But now they're like, okay, I just heard this record. So this chapter about that, okay, let me really dig in.
Okay, yeah, let me dig. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yep, that's dope. That's dope.
So that's the
I
key
love
to
that.
meeting them where they are, you know?
That's very important for sure, especially in education. Dr. Milton, I want to hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we had interdisciplinary approaches, that we had information across the entire curriculum. And so that's why music was important, because, we're a musical people and everybody likes our music. So that was one way to engage and to hook, the learner into what we're trying to do. What really intrigued me the most was when we got down to the nitty gritty of research, things like Uncle Tom. We use Uncle Tom inappropriately. Uncle Tom was the guy who loved his brothers and sisters. Uncle Tom was the one who would sacrifice his life for Black people. But the real character that we are trying to call the Uncle Tom is Sambo. Sambo was antithetical, although he was Black, he was antithetical to what we needed and what was best for us as a people. And so doing this research brought an extreme amount of clarity. Also, deconstructing the Willie Lynch letter and looking at it from a historical context. Now, the letter itself and being on the James Bank River in Virginia, a West Indian slaveholder giving the speech, never really existed. However, the components within the letter were very accurate because they used some of those inhumane, cruel, and the most vile things in human history ever to inflict them upon our people.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. You kind of jumped the gun on me, because I was going to say, like, were there some things that you all learned through this process of digging? I mean, they had to be, right? What was like a couple of facts that's out there that like nobody's really gonna know? Like the vast majority of people are just not gonna know this. Like Uncle Tom, because I that's something new to me. I just learned that, right? And I think that now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna really research Uncle Tom. I think it's important to correct that and deconstruct that in my own mind. And then now I know that I would never call another brother or sister Uncle Tom. Again, I think that this is why it's so important to understand history and to begin to deconstruct and really combat the miseducation, if you will, of a Negro in this country. And so anyway, but I really want to get y'all thoughts really quickly. I know I don't want to hold y'all too long, as the church folk would say. Seriously, man, I know because it's getting late in the day, man. It's 5 o'clock. I know y'all been very busy, jumping on interviews and really promoting the book. But, were there some things that really popped out to you? It was like, damn, man, like that's wild. I never thought that was it. Or even better, there were things like the Uncle Tom example where, like, we've been taught a certain thing, but really history is a whole nother story to it. So I just want to kind of give a couple of pieces like that before we kind of wrap things up.
Absolutely. I think on my end, definitely the Uncle Tom one was a big one. And on the record, one of the tracks, I don't know if you heard it yet, Cirilo, but one of the records is called The Elephant in the Room. And it's a record that really prepares the people as they're about to go into a topic. So if it's like a real sensitive topic, because we are in the classrooms, it's the elephant there saying, hey, it's about to get deep. And I did the record for it. And I was so moved by the Uncle Tom scenario situation. I actually put it in the verse on the second verse where, Uncle Tom was Josiah Henson. And he was a part of the Underground Railroad. Like, he freed 118 people.
Wow.
Like, after he saved his family. But everyone calls him that's the name you use if you're a sucker. Like, oh, you owe Uncle Tom. I know this man was real deal. Like, and so that was one of the big things to me. But then also just learning the ancient history did something to me where realizing, wow, so we invented all of this stuff way back in the day, like from toothbrushes, the combs, the you know, like things that the Europeans would use regular was things that was invented in ancient Africa. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't really realize how the effect on the, the power, the power there. So that was really big to me, man. And yeah, and I think that's going to help so many people because when they realize that we were kings and queens and we created so much, it creates a different energy to feel proud about something that was erased. Like, so those things in itself was major to me.
Dope, dope. Dr. Milton.
I would say, we definitely are the movers and shakers of the world. Our history goes back to the beginning of time, as we talked about. So we wanted to look at the etymology of words and language. So we did the etymology of the word Africa. It takes us back to Kubulan, which means the fertile crescent of the Garden of Eden, where life and civilization started. So we have the mitochondrial DNA that really states that we're descendants of the first human beings and all people come from us. So for that said right there should be a really enough to set the standard, to really, who we are. And also what was really powerful is that this whole thing about African nations was really different, ancient in terms of the ancient history. We really come from kingdoms, and those kingdoms were broken down like Songhai, Mali, those places. And then learning about the people like the Dogon people, the Dogon tribe, where Benjamin Banneker was from, and having the ability to communicate telepathically and the powers that's really within us, and the whole notion about melanated DNA and what that really means and represents to the world, and how that's important now. And so those things were fascinating to learn, man, about our history. It's just amazing. And I believe if any other group of people had our history, it'd be front page news every day.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Well, look, I think that, we talked about the book, but I do want to make sure that you all get a chance to, how folks can plug in with y'all, whether it be on social media. If there's a website for the book, we definitely want to plug that as well. Any kind of information where people get tied in to work that you all are doing, because obviously this is super important and we need to get this information out to as many people as humanly possible. And so, KO, man, I'll start with you.
All right, so on my end, my handles is KO Music. That's KHAO Music. That's my Twitter, my IG, and also, the album is Volume 1 and Volume 2. It's on all platforms. We've got a challenge we're doing called the Bet on Black 365 Challenge, where we're encouraging people not just to listen to it and stream it, but actually download it and purchase it. And then we have so many people like posting and saying hashtag Bet on Black 365. I bought it. And, we're number 3 in the country right now. So that the sales are booming. Things are going great. And our goal is to take it number 1 before this last week's out, and show the first time ever album on our history topping the charts doing Black history. So
that'd be a story. Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about that, man. I do lives every single day called the Daily Rillo, man. My whole thing is to make politics cool, man. I think that we, our government has a way of making things less cool, if you will, and folk don't want to get into it, and that's across the board, right? Broadly speaking. And so my mission is to make politics cool. And while I'm on my lives, man, I'm gonna make sure I'm plugging y'all book, and I'm gonna make sure I go buy that as well today, just so that I'm walking the walk, but also, at the same time while I'm talking the talk. So, Dr. Milton, man, how we get in touch with you, brother?
Hey, you could go, we have a website. It's called BH365.org. You can purchase the book and the music together as a bundle on the website. And so it tells you everything that you need to know about the work that we're doing. And my email address is on there as well. And just really excited, man. It's really an honor to be on your show. And I thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
No doubt, man. Appreciate y'all being here. If y'all can hold tight for a second, I'm going to kind of like go off air. I'm going to end the, I'm going to pause it for a sec. Okay. So anyway, So yes, thank y'all so much. Real quick, I think that what I didn't do, what I normally do, is because I want to make sure we had enough time to get y'all in. But I really want to quickly explain who is Black with No Chaser, how long we've been around, and really what our mission is. I think that's important part of the conversation. So, you know, truly, I believe Black with No Chaser was born in all of our hearts. To be honest, like if you love Black people and you love community, then Black with No Chaser is it, right? But you know, some of the folks, some of the brothers that helped found this organization, you know, I was there almost at the very beginning as well. But they were talking about Black with No Chaser before it became a legal entity on the campus of Tougaloo College in Mississippi, right? And so. You know, at our core, we're literally advocates, activists, lawyers. We didn't have any media knowledge. Me and one of my partners, Tyson, he worked on campaigns. We probably had the most media knowledge only because I had to work with digital communication firms and stuff like that. So I kind of extracted what I could learn and really took that. And now, you know, and then on a business side, but in terms of storytelling, I mean, there's a lot of platforms that tell stories, and we're not the first, but we knew that there just wasn't enough of it, and we knew the kind of stories we want to tell. And so I think that, you know, I don't know if it's really a thing, but I made it a thing, is develop Facebook mixtapes. Essentially, we did what Wayne did to everybody's track when the squads were out, when the droughts were out, right? You know, and what we were doing is rewriting articles on top of articles. So if it was a misrepresented clickbaity article that didn't really explain or cover it in a particular way, we would do the fact finding and rewrite the articles. And then from there, like it started to gain traction, right? And so we really was the first journalistic mixtape out there to like really hit the scene. And we did that on Facebook, and like literally it went from 2,000 followers and supporters, as we like to call our folk in our community, our tribe. And then from 2000 to 10, from 10 to 50, then 50 to 100, and so on and so forth. And now 3 years later, man, we touch almost 25 million people a month. Our website gets about 100,000, up to 100,000 hits a day. Our biggest following right now on IG is in France, bro. So like it's incredible to see. We just got polling back, man, and literally, out of all the brands, we asked folks on who's the authority. We're between TSR, Blavity, all these like, you know, mainstream brands out there. And by far, we hit the mark on being the thought leader in the space, as well as being authority on Black people, Black communities, and just all around Blackness, and being a safe community where people feel safe in. And so, yeah, man, we pretty much like whatever we touch is gold and literally bootstrap, barely any money. Like when I say we out here, it's like we try to make $1 out of 50 cents every single day. And I think it's the love for our people, man, and the energy we have. And you just got a lot of bright folks. And again, I taught myself graphic design when we first started doing the Black Lunch Break at the beginning of the pandemic. I was sitting down and I said, look, y'all, I'm about to go stir crazy. Y'all know I do partnerships. I'm really not the one to be in front of the camera, but I feel like we got to keep the energy going. And so the Black Lunch Break, the initial name was going to be the Black Quarantine, but it was like, yo, what's going to happen to it after quarantine? I was like, okay, that's a good call for branding purposes. I said, and I immediately texted right back. I said the Black Lunch Break. It was like, that's it. And so we don't even have right now as it stands, man, because like we're like literally like, again, still working on funding streams and revenue streams and things of that nature, because, you know, trying to run a media company and not really knowing or ever really having a media company, we are still out here learning and trying to build a plane in midair. And so it has its challenges, but you know, and the last thing I will say is that we just finished up the Black Ambition grant application, and so hopefully some of that money can go to really bringing on some folks that know media and understand pure ad sales, and we can generate more revenue and like really speak to our verticals in the business plan we know that we want to speak to. But yeah, man, that's Black with No Chaser in a nutshell. So yeah,
man, that's salute, brother. That's what I'm talking about, bro.
And maybe we can talk offline, Cirilo, because maybe we can partner, man, and try to contribute in some kind of way. You know, because we have to have sustainability with our resources and our platforms. We have to, because
Oh, for sure.
that's the way to get it out, to the vast majority of our people. But I have an idea. Ko and I are working with some young sisters in Denver, Colorado. They're amazing. I saw them on the Today Show months ago, and I reached out, and we reached out, and we have had a great relationship. It would be awesome if you could have them come on your show, man.
Oh yeah, I talked to Carlene about it, and I
Okay.
say, look, however we can make it happen. I would love to dig into their story and just talk to them about their work that they're doing. From what I understand, they've been on CNN in Australia, and they've been the Today Show, and so I'm proud of them. And I never met them, but I'm proud of them for the work that they're doing, man. Because I know that it's tough. It's young when you're young like that, and sometimes I feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And a lot of folks around you don't look like you, but you have the audacity to go out there and speak your truth. I think it's a beautiful thing. And what better place and platform to do it than Black with No Chase? So what y'all think, man? We just had Dr. Milton and Khao Cates in the building. They just laid it out for us. Made the case why Black History 365 is an important textbook to have not only in our homes but in every single classroom across this country. Now, in addition to the fact that there's a 42-track album that you can use that gives a brief synopsis in its own way on each chapter that the textbook has. You can go online right now to BH365.org to purchase the text or the album by itself. And by the way, the album is located on all platforms, streaming platforms right now, so you can buy it. There's a challenge going on right now as well, and we want to get that thing trending #1 for Black History Month. So look, thank you again, brothers, for joining us. Really do appreciate you breaking bread with the Black Lunch Break crew. And once again, y'all, and we out. And this is Black with No Chaser, where we think Black, live Black unapologetically. We out, y'all. Peace.
Really appreciate y'all. This has been one of the most amazing interviews I've ever done. My job as one of the OGs, and my teachers will tell you, my teachers started Duke Ellington, the first class of Duke Ellington in DC. They were revolutionaries. They were street kings and queens. Glenda Dickerson, I got to give homage. Mike Malone, Peggy Cooper Cafridge, Skipper Driscoll, Charles Organs. Well, he's still alive, God bless. Charles Brown, who saved.
It really actually doesn't matter what you listen to. No, you need to be listening to Black with No Chaser Radio, clearly. So
Forgot about that.
never forget.
Right.
Never forget.
My mistake.
Black with No Chaser Radio.